Alright, welcome to this month's Patreon live video. I've got the process video for the Eye of the World here and gonna walk through the whole process. So what you're seeing here on screen right now is all of my work, my preliminary work in grabbing photo reference, figuring out what I want things to look like, trying to work out the composition. I really wanted with this piece to do something that sort of commemorated the end of season 1 and I guess my love for the character Randall Thor, and I guess I also was really striving to do something that honored the character from the books as well as the TV show. And so while I didn't really like the end of the story or a lot of components of the story, I did like some visual elements and aspects of the world and all of those things. So always have said that I think Josha Stradowski is an amazing Randall Thor. So I wanted to use him as the reference here. I also really liked that area in the Eye of the World, the sort of mandala or whatever. I guess it's like a seal of the, I don't know what they're doing. Anyways, whatever. I liked the pattern. I liked the design of things, and I wanted to incorporate that in an interesting way. And then have sort of this idea of that I think of kind of where they're headed with the story in the show with regards to, sorry about my squeaky chair, with regards to his channeling and breaking the seal and then potentially releasing the Forsaken. I think is probably what they're going to do. Anyways, so I wanted his sort of hand resting underneath that. You can see, so in my photo reference, the hand that's out is my hand. You can see the likeness there, maybe. I just took a photo of my hand, and I have this little figurine that I kind of scrunched up to make him look like the little Fat Man Angreal that Rand uses in the books, which they didn't really work into the story very well in my opinion, but I wanted to have something in there. In the painting it kind of ends up being a little bit obscured with all the light and stuff that's going on, but it's there. This background piece was like a ton of work. I was struggling at first. I started trying to like just reference it and draw it on my own, but that was ridiculous. It was so much work. So what I ended up doing was bringing in the photo of the background into the program. I think I brought it into Photoshop, and then I manipulated it and I put a filter on it to paint it. Basically, there's a filter that automatically paints it, but it looks terrible. It looks like junk. So what you saw there with the red, that was me tracing everything. So I tried to like first trace it, and I thought maybe then I could use that tracing as a mask to like paint into stuff. Anyways, it was like just not working. So what I did was I brought in a Photoshop manipulated version of that background, and then I essentially traced it in that graphic inside of Fresco and repainted the whole thing basically, because I hate the filter. Just looks like, you can tell it's like machine rendered and like manipulated. So I really needed to I was not happy with that. So I needed to go in and basically create my own version of it. So a long part of the process of this painting was just essentially going over top of that pattern in the background, working through the nuances of all the details and all of those pieces. And you probably can't even really see a lot of what's going on with that in this video while I'm doing it, so I'll probably skip that part and just jump into the painting of the figure. But you can see here, like I was wrestling with kind of like how I started wrestling early with how I wanted the 1 power and all of those components of the cracking and stuff, and I was like figuring out the layering of things, which parts would overlap him and which parts would be on the surface behind him or on the mandala, whatever. I don't know what the proper term to use for it is, behind him. And then I felt like I needed to at least like block him in here, so I blocked him in. This is like the ugly underpainting stage of things. And you can probably tell from watching the show, if you watched the show, this shot of him, I think it was from a promo still from episode 7, I think. I want to say 7, 6 or 7, probably 7. Anyways, it's when he's in the archery range in Faldara, and he's just like practicing. So I pulled a still from there because I thought that I really liked the lighting on it, which it's incongruous to the lighting that was in the final scene of the show, but I really liked the dramatic nature of it and the colors. So that's why I kind of pulled that photo in as my reference and used it as like a basis. You can kind of see here a little bit on the left. You can kind of see where I'm working in some of the final, like the details of the painting of that object in the background. It's kind of boring in a way. I'm not going to show you the whole process of me painting that because it's just kind of absurd. So I think we'll just sort of skip ahead here and get you into the more, I don't know, exciting components of it. So it was right around here that I started to kind of work on building up the front, the figure in the piece, and then also was like working with a few different renderings, I guess, of his a few different outputs of the photo reference, because I was trying to get the lighting and the coloring the way that I wanted it to be. So I was just kind of trying to figure out, I was kind of going back and forth between Adobe Fresco and Adobe Photoshop and just trying to figure out what I wanted those things to look like, how I wanted those components to all come together. And I was bringing in like adjusted background images and adjusted images of him to try to get the lighting and the color and everything the way that I wanted to set the atmosphere correctly, because I really wanted to have sort of this very, I don't know, dark kind of atmosphere, but still have some of the glow and light in there as well. The print is nice. I've got a few copies. I've sold a few copies of the print, and I've got one here on my wall, and I do feel like it turned out nice. I think maybe, if anything, I would say it ended up feeling a little bit busy with all the cracks and all of the 1-power and all the components of it, and it's a little bit unfortunate, but I think overall it worked out well. And then you can see here, obviously, I'm building up the facial features, and then I start working on his body. And I tend to, I noticed like with portraits, with pieces like this where things are a little bit more robust than just a portrait, I do tend to still start with getting the face to a good place. I feel like if I can get that to a good place, then I can feel confident that the rest of the piece will come together. And it just helps me kind of move into the other components with confidence and less apprehension, I guess, that the piece is going to work or not. Because obviously, I mean, character portraits and character faces are a big focus for me in my work. And so I just wanted to capture that. One of the things that I really wanted to do with this piece too was really work on the warm and cool color combinations. And that's a little bit like, there's a conceptual reasoning for that too, is I wanted to sort of show those sides of Rand. He's kind of torn between two worlds in a way, sort of like the warm and cozy past and the darker sort of like tumultuous future that he kind of ends up moving into. And so I liked the lighting on the shot that I chose for that reason. Kind of gave me like a nice symbolic approach to the color palette for that. And then I was challenged a bit by the photo reference that I integrated of my arm. I had to really kind of work a few times over that arm to try to get the folds and the lighting and coloring to work to be congruent with the rest. And it is a little bit different because I wanted that sort of glow from the Angreal that he's holding, and Angreal or Terra Angreal, I can't remember the proper term, you guys can correct me, but and then sort of like the light coming from it, and I really wanted to have like that focal point. in relationship with his hand and that crack in the background in the Quain Diar seal. And so those are some of the, like, I guess, conceptual points that I was working with in this piece. And then lately I've been really trying to push composition, and so in this piece it's a fairly central square piece, but I really wanted to emphasize a nice flow for the viewer. And again, I think maybe the busyness of it detracts a bit from that. I'm always like trying to evaluate my work critically, but I used the 1 power as a means to kind of draw the eye around, so the viewer's eye, so they kind of come in the top left, and then you see him, and you kind of start where the hand is. You sort of move through, look at his face, and then the 1 power kind of brings you back around. It also mimics the flame and the fang, which is a symbol that is prevalent in the Wheel of Time, representing sort of the 2 halves of the one source. And so, yeah, I kind of was playing with those motifs and trying to bring all that stuff together into this one piece. And trying to stay true to his costuming, to the way that they've got him represented in the show. I think that there's aspects of that in the show that work really well. I do feel like this guy, like his look and his feel does feel very Two Rivers to me. And the sword that he has is great. I think all those costuming pieces are great, so I wanted to just stick with that. It also helps me. I have a hard time painting things that aren't there, and so that's why I have to use like extra photo reference if there's a piece missing from a photo. In the original photo he had both his arms down at his side and he had his bow in his hand, I believe. And so there's just things that I have to adjust and make adjustments and allowances for using my own photo reference. So yeah, and then with all of my prints, I tend to do what you see at the bottom there. I'm working on kind of like a motif or a consistent, use of text along the bottom of my pieces, and putting the title down there if they're not a limited edition print. On my limited edition prints, why is it so hard to say limited? Limited edition prints, I tend to write the name in pencil and then put the number and my signature on the side, just to give it a little bit of more authenticity, I suppose. So I think that's where I'll leave it, but I hope you enjoyed the process of this piece. I was really happy with how it came together. I do feel like I'm growing, so this would have been like number 60, probably like the 63rd painting that I've done since I started doing my 100 portrait challenge. And when I look back at number 1 and compared to where I'm at now, and even just the comfort level at which I am working, so how fast things are coming together, and I'm having to do less wrestling and fighting with the technology and my approach to stuff, and that's really nice for me. I do really, I'm really enjoying that. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be using the same render, the same output, I guess time lapse, for the episode 7 and 8 review, which I'm working on and will have out soon as well. I might even shoot the audio for it today and just try to get them both out in the next week here. But my goal is to have this one, well, you'll have this one. So look for the review after you've watched this. You can listen to the review and you don't have to watch the process again. At any rate, thanks so much everybody, and I look forward to continuing on this year with you. I'm going to try to do more Stormlight Archive stuff, artwork for that. I've even thought about doing some of my own work and trying to, I guess, work on some of my own story ideas and build some art around that. I also want to do some analog portraits, some actual portraits on, I don't know if I want to use paper and then mount them onto wood panels yet, or what I'm going to do with that, but it is something that I've just really wanted to pursue because I just miss working with traditional media. So we'll see where that goes. Again, thank you so much everybody for sticking with me, for supporting me here on Patreon, and I do hope you're all doing well, and I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.